Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into something really powerful that's happening in Brazil. We're looking at how Black and Indigenous cinema is moving from the margins right into the mainstream. And this isn't just about entertainment, not at all. It's a powerful act of cultural and political resistance. Okay, so let's get right into this. It all kind of crystallizes around this one simple but incredibly profound question from the philosopher Jean-Paul Sartre. See, he was visiting Brazil, and he was struck by something. He's in a country where the majority of people are non-white, but when he looks around at the intellectual circles he's in, they're overwhelmingly white. And he just has to ask, and the Black people? Where are the Black people? And that question, it really hits on something huge, the systemic invisibility of Black Brazilians. You know, this isn't some accident. It's the result of a long, long history of cultural and social erasure. It's a deliberate sidelining that shapes everything from who gets to be an intellectual to who you see on a movie screen. So, how does that happen? How is this invisibility maintained? Well, there is one key concept that really helps us get it: images of control. It's a powerful idea that gets right to the root of how stereotypes are used, not just to categorize people, but to actually oppress them. So this idea, it comes from the sociologist Patricia Hill Collins. And what she's talking about are these recurring negative stereotypes. You know, the ones like the hypersexualized woman or the subservient man. They get repeated in media over and over and over again until they start to feel like undeniable truths. And when that happens, they end up justifying systemic oppression, making huge social inequalities feel, well, just natural. And you can see just how destructive these ages are. Think of it like water dripping on a stone. They just erode self-worth, they make violence and discrimination seem normal, and they lock in these oppressive power structures. They basically take entire communities of complex human beings and flatten them into one-dimensional caricatures, creating this false sense that this is just the way things are meant to be. And this isn't just some abstract theory, right? It has a very real, very human cost. I mean, just look at this image. It perfectly captures that feeling of precarity, the humiliation that's forced on people when society only sees them through that distorted lens of control. This is the human cost of systemic indifference. But here's the thing about erasure. It's never total. There's always resistance. And in this case, a really powerful response has been bubbling up. Black filmmakers are seizing the camera, telling their own stories, and creating a powerful counter-narrative. So what this all boils down to is a massive shift, right? It's about going from being the object in someone else's story to being the author of your own. It's moving away from being seen through a white gaze, usually as a stereotype or a prop, to defining yourself with all your complexity and subjectivity. It's the difference between being a caricature and being a real living character. Okay, let's look at an example. Take a film like Medida Provisoria, directed by Lázaro Ramos. It uses this wild, dystopian premise, a government order for all Black citizens to return to Africa to explore the absolutely brutal logic of racism and the fight for belonging in your own home. And it's not just about fictional stories. Look at the documentary Socorro. This shows us that the fight isn't just for representation on screen. It's about real-world struggles for land, for health, for environmental justice in a Quilombola community that's a settlement founded by descendants of escaped enslaved people that's literally being squeezed by industrial exploitation. Now, this new wave of cinema didn't just come out of nowhere. It stands on the shoulders of pioneers like the incredible Grande Otelo. I mean, this was a brilliant and beloved actor, but he had to navigate a deeply, deeply racist industry, often playing these stereotyped comedic roles. But his career also tells a story of evolution, as he later worked with directors who let him bring so much more depth and humanity to his characters. His own life story reflects Brazil's changing racial landscape. You know, what we're talking about here is so much bigger than just what's on a movie screen. It's about grabbing hold of entire cultures, histories, even languages that were deliberately targeted for destruction. It's a united front for cultural survival. And this feeling of exclusion, it's a shared experience. Listen to this incredibly powerful statement from Indigenous leader Ailton Krenak. It just perfectly connects the struggle of Black Brazilians to that of the country's native peoples. It highlights that shared feeling of being pushed to the margins of humanity itself. And a key weapon in his whole process of erasure is something called glottophagia. It literally means language swallowing. What a powerful image, right? It's this colonial tactic of destroying or crushing native languages, of denying people the basic right to name their own world, to tell their own stories in their own words. It's how you silence a culture from the inside out. But even against something as powerful as that, people resist. Just look at the Fulnio community. They give us a masterclass in what survival and resistance actually look like. For them, it's an active, daily process, and it's rooted in two main pillars: taking part in their sacred hour curry ritual and speaking their unique language, Yathi. It's through these acts that they hold on to their identity and fight back against assimilation. So, when you peel back all the layers, what are we really talking about? It all comes down to one fundamental question of power. Who gets to tell the story? Who gets to be the narrator of history? Okay, get ready for this, because this is a stunning piece of history. There were at least 3 African-born popes in the early Catholic Church. 3. But if you look at the books and the art that came later, they were systematically whitened. Their African identity was just erased from the record. And that's why this quote just hits so hard. It gets to the very heart of why all of this matters so much. Controlling your narrative isn't just about art or making movies. It's about memory. It's about identity. It's about existence itself. Because a story that isn't told is a history that's lost forever. So, telling your own story, that's an act of power. And reclaiming that power, that is an act of resistance. The next time you watch a film or hear a story, ask yourself, whose voice am I hearing right now? And maybe even more important, whose voice has been silenced?